You know, one of my favorite parts of the Feminine Path of Power, and what I think makes it so special, is the storytelling in myth. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the power of storytelling.
Okay. Well, as you know, when you were a little kid, one of our favorite things to do was to, jump into bed and have a story read to you. Or when you're at summer camp and you're around the campfire and someone starts to tell a story. What I love about storytelling is that it's a story. Stories are things that everyone can relate to, but they're one step removed. So it's a little less personal about me, but if I'm listening to a story, then I get to see and hear what the hero did or the heroine did in the story, and how what kinds of dangers that hero faces, or the kinds of life struggles that the hero or heroine has, and then how the resolution to the stories, how that character actually faces adversity. And I love stories. I just think it's the best way to teach life lessons and to give people instruction on how to become fully empowered.
Sure, definitely. And these in particular are women's stories.
Right. So I wanted to write women's initiation stories because there's plenty of hero stories with male characters. But where are the women's stories? Where are the heroic women's stories about women who face adversity, women who struggle? What do they do, and what are the life lessons that women are supposed to learn for women to become fully empowered? So that was what inspired me to actually write initiation stories for women.
And they're fantastic. I mean, it is wonderful to listen to you tell the stories, and to kind of drift off into that world and relate to it in different parts.
Yeah. So what's it like for you? You've heard a lot of the stories.
Well, it's fantastic. It's like you mentioned, it's once removed, but it's parts of you can relate to, and it gives me ideas on maybe how to resolve certain things or how to look at something in a slightly different way. Mm-hmm. And I think through the idea of storytelling and myth, it reaches a different part of your brain, than your cognitive mind.
So that's a good point. So it's so different reading a story or hearing a story than having to read a textbook or a self-help book, because story, you're right, it does kind of stir up different parts of the brain, and I think helps us to absorb the information a lot more easily.
And it puts us more into a creative space.
Right.
And in addition, you're not just telling the story, but you're drumming along with it. So that's a really big piece that you might want to talk about.
Okay, so drumming, I do drumming and storytelling at the same time, and the drum that I use is a West African djembe drum, which I learned about 20 years ago. I learned how to drum, and I loved the combination of using the drum beat behind the story or underneath the story, because it's like a river, and it helps you, it takes you along, it carries you along in the story, and I think it mesmerizes you, so that, again, the story and the information goes into a different part of our brain, and we remember it better, I think, when there's drum behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that when you were saying that I feel like I sort of drift off, and not asleep, but drift off into being more receptive to the story.
Great. Yeah. Well, good.
Thank you. That was really helpful.